Oh, I know that countdown's only like a half a minute, but sometimes it feels like it's for flipping ever, doesn't it? Oh, I got to check my shoes out of my way. Hey, welcome to the Backyard Professor Live. Welcome, everybody. Tim, Doug, Mark. Yeah. All the rest of you. Looks like there's a few people here, more people showing up. This week, I actually did get to Sunstone yesterday, and it was an absolute riot. It was fun. I ran into a lot of my good friends, and we had a lot of good conversations. A lot of folks came up to me and thanked me for doing what I do, and it kind of validates me and reaffirms in my heart that even though I'm a small channel, people really do get something out of this. And I always hope to be able to give you my best information and my best shot at responding to lunacy and idiocy like I will tonight, as well as to good and quality as I have done in the past as well. Hey, Paul Osborne, good to see you, my man. You're going to like this one. Dan Vogel, you're here. You're going to like this one too. I must say, you two have forever influenced me for the good. Dan Vogel's book of Abraham Apologetics. I am sorry to say, Dan, you have been completely slighted and ignored by Ward Radio. I hope you feel bad about that. No, really, I'm going to make Ward Radio wish they had read you in their response. So, no, there's some good stuff tonight, really, seriously. Wanda Anthony, welcome, dear. Hey, Nathan Aronson, how are you? Good to see you. We have to express ourselves, we, meaning you, in the audience and myself. We are not attempting to just simply rehash what we have already talked about in the past. We're not about trying to bore you with repetition like Mormonism does. But if the apologists and the scholars and the regular Joes and Janes and Pollyannas within Mormonism are going to continue repeating this subject, then we shall repeat our responses with ever more refined and excellent quality scholarship, concepts, and ideas, because we also value the truth. We believe we value it much more than Mormon apologists do. Let's get on with this show. That is enough of an introduction. It's time to kick some Ward Radio butt, ox. Yeah, whatever. Just shut up and talk, dude, will you? I'm in a good mood because this is one of my very most favorite subjects. They responded to an evangelical scholar, Mike Winger. Now, I will say, I watched Mike Winger's also, and he's partially correct. But I also agree with Ward Radio in a few of their items against Mike Winger. Mike Winger should have done a better job. I am 100% against whatever Ward Radio says tonight in defense of the Book of Abraham. I would even be willing to go so far as to say, if you seriously think this is putting your best foot forward, I will invite you on to my show, Ward Radio. You bring as many people as you want to, including your own LDS Egyptologist, if they would care to join you. Come on to my show and let's have a talk, because I'm not afraid of discussing this subject with people who continually nonstop use outdated and refuted defenses of their faith in order to bolster their faith. Checkmate, Ward Radio. Tonight we will see serious problems. Let's get on with this. All right, sorry to bore you with so much pizzazz and up front, but it's important to set the stage. Here we go.
They're just so deceitful and lying.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, Mike Winger, this is a perfectly viable theory, and you're just acting like it's silly because either you don't know or you just want to make your case seem stronger than it is.
This is so dishonest. And this guy's a pastor?
Well, all right, Ward Radio, let's see what you got. Show us. You think you've got information. Bring it on.
How is the most dishonest guy on the internet in this theological discussion? An evangelical pastor.
My real question is, how is it that Mormon apologists can be so dishonest and, charitably speaking, so grossly damn ignorant of the Book of Abraham, evidences for and against it, as to continually present evidences that have been Egyptologically refuted? That is a much more important question for me to ask than the one that Cardin did with Ward Radio.
The fact that they think this is a mic drop just baffles me.
The fact that Ward Radio continually uses information that was refuted 35 and 40 years ago is what baffles me.
The fact that they think, and we're going to be talking about this book, debunking some anti-Mormon claims against the beloved, the blessed Book of Abraham, translated by Joseph Smith. Luke, tell us what prompted this video. You said Mike Winger was coming after us again?
Yeah, so Mike Winger claims that he has irrefutable proof that Mormonism is false.
Yes, and I also have irrefutable proof that you two failed to convince anyone that the Book of Abraham is true.
Joining the church, and nobody's made a debunking video of this as far as I can tell, which is one of the shortcomings that we have, which we are trying to remedy here at Ward Radio.
Yes, and I just want to make crystal clear and sure that I give these guys a chance to say as much as they can to context it, and your debunking that you choose to do needs some serious help because you're just stupid, silly wrong.
So anyway,
yeah, if you are joining because you saw that Mike Winger video and then you were curious about what this debunk is, welcome. This is Ward Radio. We're going to have fun and we're going to tear this thing apart because he massively overstates his case.
Now, the irony here is that Mike Winger understates his case. He really does. And it is Ward Radio that is overstating their case. But they're so close to this that they can't really see that they are overstating their case. And I'm going to be happy to show you. What they don't let their audience know is that their own LDS Egyptologists, which they will use, Kerry Mulstein and Michael Dennis Rhodes and Hugh Nibley and John Gee, etc., are outdated. And I mean, we're in 2024 now, and it's a different ball game than it was just 10 years ago. And the context that Ward Radio functions under is at least 50 years old, sincerely. And I've got the evidence. It's hard to grasp that they chose to remain this far behind, but I've got the evidence for real. And unfortunately, the sadistic nature in my soul, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to make this response video live, because wow, they were outdated the moment they pushed the hit button to record their live session. It's astonishing how ridiculous this gets.
Mike Winger is going to lean into this a little more, so we're going to go to clip 2, and he's really going to pound this idea home.
Okay, clip number 2.
You couldn't compare the Book of Mormon to the Golden Plates to see if he translated right. You couldn't even look at one letter of the ancient language for that matter.
No, that is not true. Characters document. Mike, come on, Mike. Like, do your research, man. We have some of the characters. Jerry Grover's translated them. Maybe that was before after you made this video, but you should check it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we do have access. I'm going to go back and.
Okay, so This Jerry Grover translation, I had John Lundwall on to show how Jerry Grover's translation of the characters that Joseph Smith copied off the gold plates is not any kind of a valid translation whatsoever. If you're going to utilize a translation of a fellow Mormon scholar of these kinds of items, in order to make it valid, it is not that he just comes onto your show, shows you a translation, gives you a burning in your bosom. The Holy Ghost testifies to you that, yes, this is a true translation concerning Nephi or Alma or whoever the hell this guy imagines he's translating about. Jerry Grover, as we have noted before, and as I will re-up the notification tonight. Good job, Jerry Grover. You've translated more of those characters than I ever will. Now, when are you going to do it validly and present this in a peer-reviewed journal of world scholarly peers who can also check and verify your translation is accurate and authentic? That is where the rubber meets the road. Not in Sunday school and sacrament meeting where you show only your fellow Mormons and you get them all Twitter-pated. I believe Mike Winger's stance stands, and I think it's obvious the direction he's going, and it unravels Ward Radio, rightly so. The point is, we don't have the gold plates to check to see what the translation is like. We have nothing original to test the Book of Mormon. That's his point. And in that, he is strictly correct. We don't. Jerry Grover's evidence just doesn't even move the meter here. And I'm not even being obnoxious when I say that. I know of no other scholar, and I'm willing to bet you that there are LDS scholars, say John Gee, Kerry Mulstein, Michael Dennis Rhodes, Terrell Givens, who will also disagree with Jerry Grover's translation. So this is a non-issue. They failed on this one as well. Well, let's keep looking. What else have you got, Ward Radio? So far, I am singularly unimpressed.
Yeah. So we do have access. I'm going to go back and play the beginning of this clip again so we make sure that we steelman his argument here.
You couldn't compare the Book of Mormon to the golden plates to see if he translated right. You couldn't even look at one letter of the ancient language for that matter.
Okay, so yes, actually you can look at a letter of the ancient language, and yes, Jerry Grover has done some really interesting translation work from that document, and also we have a lot of descriptions, and it's not the golden plates, it's the plates that had the appearance of gold, and so there is that kind of misconception that exists.
In fact, for Ward Radio, if you ever bother to look at this, and you probably ought to, I actually do have a legitimate scholar in my audience right here tonight live, Dan Vogel, and he says the characters document is fake. So can you overcome that claim? Now, were you to just mock Dan Vogel, he has videos on his website where he demonstrates that with the evidence. I would seriously suggest, if you guys are serious about presenting these so-called evidences in favor of your scriptural authenticities and verification, that you also need to begin to do some serious homework as you advise Mike Winger. Now, in this instance, I'm on your side in some respects on advocating to Mike Winger that, yeah, dude, you really do need to do a little bit better homework. But I am also advocating to you, Ward Radio, you get off your lazy dead-ass Mormon butts and you do a whole lot more homework, because you are deceiving your audience. And I've got the evidence tonight.
Now we can do something. If this came out to show that he really accurately translated ancient Egyptian, I would consider becoming Mormon.
Oh,
I'd be like,
okay.
wow, that's pretty impressive. Like, how did he do that? You know, I would be wondering.
Okay. Now, the problem with this is that
we don't do that with the ancient manuscripts of the Bible.
He's like, if I see a compelling evidence, but then he puts the box around it and he says, with a translation of the Book of Abraham. So if I see the words and somebody says, oh, that's a good translation, that's what's going to make him consider being Mormon. But he's absolutely not going to consider being Mormon if, for example, Joseph Smith got the name Nahum correct, or if he got other interesting parallels, or if he was able to get 11 witnesses that never denied their testimony. He's not going to consider Mormonism if that's the case, because it's more convenient for him to set up this other.
So I've got a question for you gentlemen then. Have all these evidences compelled people worldwide to seek out baptism? And has Mormonism become one of the main components of mainstream Christianity because of that? Because of these absolutely powerful evidences? I mean, you say you're going to steel man Mike Winger's arguments. The worst, this doesn't cut the mustard in any manner. And Mike Winger is right. This is a perfect test, which we will now carry out because you have failed to. Your own scholars have attempted to. I get that, but we will show where you utilizing their materials also fails. So bear with me while I get another video up here. Let's take a look.
In Mike Winger's church, before I believed in the New Testament, specifically the book of Luke, which is based upon the book of Mark, or the book of John, you know what I'm saying? I would want to see the earliest manuscripts thereof so I could compare them with other manuscripts that have been translated from Greek or from Aramaic or from Latin or from any of the ancient languages, you know what I'm saying, from Hebrew. I'd want to see those papyri so I could know what, oh, wait. Our earliest ones are from the 4th century AD, hundreds of years after Jesus died.
Now, this argument is very, very close to my heart for nostalgic reasons. This is classic Mormon dope apologetics, sincerely. And they are sincere when they present this, so let's give them a sincere response, not a smart aleck response. So, demonstrating the shortfalls of biblical evidence does not save the shortfalls of the Book of Abraham evidence, Carden Ellis. Your argument is entirely irrelevant to the Book of Abraham. And I utilized this argument many, many times as an apologist. I know exactly why you're using it, and it doesn't work for the reason I just stated. The other side of this issue is you have now given Joseph Smith 2 black eyes, because I'm in agreement with you. The Bible is problematic, and Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible did not solve the problems either. So now not only are we seeing a shortfall of the Book of Abraham, Carden Ellis of Ward Radio, I'm calling you out on this, my man. We now see a shortfall of the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible with just those items you presented as evidence against Mike Winger's own view in church. It also works against Mormonism and Joseph Smith's translation of the Bible. Congratulations, you ding-a-ling. You're digging Joseph Smith deeper than I was planning on doing so.
died.
There's like a little one that's earlier than that.
Oh yeah, we got like 8
ones.
verses. Oh, never mind. The long ending of Mark was forged. Never mind that the woman taken in adultery in the book of John doesn't show up until the 5th century BC in the wrong place. The earliest codices that have the story of the woman taken in adultery, a beautiful story that I actually think happened to Jesus and probably existed in the oral tradition and belongs in the Bible as an inspired work, but really bounced around the Bible until it settled where it belongs in what, the 6th or 7th BC. So you got this cat right here who's saying that, oh, the Bible's true with 600-year-old evidence, but the Book of Mormon isn't, with 200-year-old copies of the original language.
Don't you just love how excited Cardin gets when he's talking about the ridiculous fallacies of the Bible? The Bible doesn't have the manuscript evidence. The stories are completely fake. They've been blown around all over the place, here, there, and yon, over and there. Mike Winger, your church is fake because you have no manuscript evidence, and your Bible is phony, and it's got problems. And he has no realization that it destroys Joseph Smith as well. And look at his enthusiasm. I mean, that's the strongest testimony emotionally that we're going to see Cardin Ellis bear tonight in his entire video. He didn't bear that kind of a testimony about the book of Abraham. He bears his testimony against the reliability of the Bible. It's phony. You can't prove it. It has no archaeological authentication. It is not historical. The manuscript evidence blows it out of the water. Mike Winger, you're a loser. And it destroys Joseph Smith at the same time. Cardin Ellis is doing my work for me. Amazing, right? Maybe I should have him come here on a guest and let's talk Bible together. It's just amazing. And he doesn't recognize that it backfires because, look at it this way. Joseph Smith had superb heavenly tools to correct all of these errors. Urim and Thummim, seer stone, prayer, direct revelation from God, visions. I mean, didn't he see the parchment of John in a vision? It wasn't there. He didn't have to have a gold plate or a vellum parchment to translate that document, did he? No, of course not. He could have easily solved so many of those biblical problems. And we now know, thanks to, ironically, a BYU very steep in the culture Mormon Thomas Wayman, he has now demonstrated that rather than revelation or from utilizing an ancient authentic manuscript, either family or tradition, Joseph Smith cribbed his ideas from the most popular commentary in his day, the Adam Clark Bible Commentary, for his ideas in the Joseph Smith translation. It wasn't even a revelation. It was the level of Dan Peterson plagiarism. This just keeps getting worse. I can't make this stuff up. Seriously. The BYU professor, Thomas Wayman, demonstrated there's many ideas Joseph Smith got in his JST from a regular commentary in his day. In other words, we find Joseph Smith doing what really rubs the Mormon apologist completely wrong. He is utilizing contemporary sources to come up with the information in his putative revelations. And the Mormon scholars are finding and presenting the evidence for us. So, Cardin Ellis, you blistering the Bible, thank you for your help in my presentation tonight. I was just going after the book of Abraham. You added the Bible with me? Thanks, man. That's 2 for 2. Woohoo! Appreciate all the help, but I can do it on my own. I'm vastly more intelligent on this stuff than you'll ever be, so you can quit helping me anytime. All right, let's check out the next slide. What number am I on? This one right here.
And here's the way that God seems to work from the scriptures. You can disagree with this, Mike, if you want to, but it seems that God is interested in evidence. He doesn't just completely discount it, but he only wants to give you enough that you decide to seek for yourself spiritually. So Christ is risen from the dead. We have testimony of that from the witnesses. But if God was really interested in giving us proofs, evidentiary proofs of things, Christ could just be walking around today.
Exactly. And now you know why there are atheists. Because apparently it's just not as important for God to give us good, valid evidence for claims and beliefs. Now, it's really important from our point of view, right? God apparently doesn't give a flying flip. Obviously, because there's tens of thousands of different religious denominations all over the world that are contradictory and variegated and multicolored and hued. And some of them are flat out idiotic, stupid beyond description. Others are really graceful and elegant and wonderful and beautiful, etc. But not all of them agree, if any two of them even do. And God hasn't done one damn thing to change that picture for millennia. Are you getting the point, Ward Radio? Your defense doesn't help you. This is so amazing. This is astonishing. We are justified based on the lack of evidence that's actually any good, of just saying no, and that doesn't make us wicked. I heartily say no to Jerry Grover's translation of those characters. I don't buy that for a minute. I would like to ask my audience real quickly, would you accept Jerry Grover's translation of those characters? Type either yes or no in the comment real quick, would you please? Participate with me in this quick, very unscientific poll. I say no, and I don't think that means I'm wicked any more than it's going to make any of my audience wicked. Anybody? Oh, we're only getting one answer. Hell no. Oh, there's another no. There's, yeah, see? But that doesn't mean we're wicked. It means the evidence doesn't give us enough context. That's the problem. That's the issue. Paul Gregerson, good to see you. It's about time you showed up. I've been wondering when you guys were going to get here. Yeah, they are reacting to the wrong Abrahamic context. Absolutely. That's why I'm making this video. Very good. Very good. Well, Dan Vogel has a good point, too. He says the book of Abraham can be tested, so the God must want us to, and therefore we test it. Now, this is almost against the teachings of the church leaders. They don't want you to test. They want you to pray and believe, right? So I'm getting nothing but no's here. Hi, JB Maybe. Good to see you, my friend. Oh, yes, I will do some videos on the Sunstone excursion. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, I went to Sunstone yesterday. That was a hoot. So anyway, this is the idea. Let's keep going. I have much more to share with you tonight. I've got some good stuff coming up that they've talked about.
Lazarus, and what the story's actually going to come up later, but Lazarus dying, Lazarus and the rich man, and the rich man says, hey, why don't I just go back from the dead and tell my friends so they don't wind up in hell with me? And Christ says, though one rise from the dead, they will not believe. So even if you're able to prove something to somebody, they can still choose to believe or not.
You know what? This might shock you, but I don't believe your claim. Word Radio, I really don't. No kidding. And I'm not trying to be irreligious here at all. let's think through this. I wrote this down so I wouldn't say it wrong, because this is a quite important point. When an extraordinary claim is made, we've all heard the Carl Sagan quote, but the reason we have to keep quoting it is because there are so many extraordinary claims being made with absolutely no evidence to back them up, or the evidence is so asinine as to be ludicrous to believe the claim. There's the problem. You're in that category, my friends. An extraordinary claim needs that kind of evidence. If we literally saw, and let's say it was videoed, a person die, they are clinically dead for 3 days and 3 nights, and they come back to life, and no medical equipment whatsoever of any kind was used on the person in any way, and she rose up and she began associating again with her family and her friends as if nothing happened. She lived a normal life. I find it extremely difficult for someone who saw the evidence of that 3-day death. They would not believe the miracle. 3 days death, coincidence and anomaly would be ruled out, especially if the body just laid there rotting and stinking and smelling after 3 days of decomposing, and then all of a sudden she's alive and everything's all back to normal. All bodily functions are working. But we never have that. That is precisely what makes the claim so extraordinary, because that is so out of the realm of our reality that it is unbelievable. So that's the problem, in my opinion. It's just an interesting situation that needs to be examined. I'm not going to tonight, but that's my take on that. Let's keep going.
The state that you're in right now,
Well,
or that we're in. We just have to be open to that possibility.
Well, and the other, to me, this is just such proof that North American evangelicalism and Protestantism, I mean, with the rare exception of some unique pastors, it's really just become a bureaucracy. Bureaucrats, they're always working enough just to justify their paycheck. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes these YouTube channels from these pastors, there's nothing uplifting about any of this crap.
Oh, that's interesting. There for a minute, he mentioned bureaucracy, and I thought he was talking about Mormonism. You see, the irony is especially rich in this part of their video. This is what makes it so interesting to watch a bureaucratic organized religion critique and correct another bureaucratic organized religion. It's the blind leading the blind, and they both fall into the ditch. It's astonishing. And neither one of them, of course, can see it. Let's keep watching. I'll show you more of what I mean. This is pretty amazing.
So gross, he like smells like methamphetamines, you know? So it's like, if there's any more proof that the evangelical and the North American Protestant establishment has just become an oppressive spiritual bureaucracy, it's the content they put out against Mormons that does nothing to fulfill the commission of Jesus Christ, but like justifies a paycheck to the people that donated to whatever church. I mean, this dude's making 6 figures hand over fist.
Maybe
he's making more money.
Homonym, though.
He's making more money than a freaking junior college administrator does without having to do 10% of the work.
And we find Mormonism guilty of absolutely everything Cardin is accusing the evangelical minister of. You can't make this stuff up. That is absolutely astonishing. And Cardin, of course, can't see it. So, you know, we can forgive him, I suppose. Maybe he'll watch this video and grow a brain and learn how to think correctly, you know. You can't really yell at him because it's the church's fault, but he had his freedom to learn how to use his brain, and he refused how to when it comes to church matters. So let's see what else they got for us.
Have to do 10% of the work.
Yes, but it is ad hominem, and we do need to take
No, it's not ad hominem
summary.
if you call in to question a conflict of interest and the cash bias, okay, of the establishment is a conflict of interest. That's
so when we bring out these exact same criticisms against Mormonism, we're told we're attacking it with ad hominem. Let's remember what Cardin Ellis says here. It's not ad hominem after all. We're just doing what we're supposed to be doing, because every issue here that he brought up is what Mormonism itself as a church organization is guilty of. And the crazy thing here, you guys, is he's supposed to be talking about the book of Abraham, and he is just going after this poor guy, Mike Winger's church and the Bible. He's supposed to be defending the book of Abraham. Now, before you get too lopsided with me, understand this is standard apologetic fare for the reason that they don't have a really good defense of that scripture or their church or their doctrines. So they're backed up into a corner immediately by Mike Winger, and they're kicking and scratching and clawing and trying to get themselves out of it, but they can't. And we'll see this as we progress tonight. They can't get out of this corner. They really, really want to, really, really bad, but they can't. So let's keep watching. It gets better. Amazing. I mean, this is entertainment. This is better than Sunday night at the movies, man.
Facts is a different guy. Traded pagan artifacts for resources to modernize Egypt. So he was like a ruler, giving away a lot of artifacts to modernize. There was a traveling salesman who went through Kirtland, and he sold 4 mummies and at least 5 scrolls, 2 long scrolls and 3 smaller scrolls.
Man, they can't even get the basic historical information correct. Now look. Okay. The Joseph Smith Papers. Now this is as close to church-sponsored stuff as we can get. The Joseph Smith Papers volume on the book of Abraham, which is supposed to give us the real, serious, skinny, and information on the truth of all of the papyri and the discussions of what was which, where, and how, the translation, the hieroglyphs. They've spelled it all out, and these two ninnies get the basic historical information wrong. When it is online available later on, they will twit Mike Winger because they say all you have to do is Google it for 30 seconds and get your information. Okay, let me add that to Cardin and his cohort. All you needed to do was Google this, and in 30 seconds, you would have got your basic information instead of looking like a couple of idiots who don't know your shoe from your head. Here is the Joseph Smith Papers project. I have it right here, page XIV. And what does the church-sponsored information indicate? It is historical. It is in Joseph Smith's history. It is in the Joseph Smith Papers. It has been explored and examined and understood by every Mormon historian except John Gee and Ward Radio, because it's his argument they're using. And it's stupidly wrong. Let me quote, "The papyrus fragments published here constitute the only known surviving portions of the 2 papyrus rolls and various papyrus fragments purchased by Joseph Smith and his associates." Then I cross-referenced it because, yes, I have read this entire book cover to cover many times. And over on page XIX, we find this said, after exhibiting his show, that is Michael Chandler, his show in the city of Cleveland, Ohio, Chandler traveled east to Kirtland. He arrived there in late June or early July 1835. He was hoping to sell his remaining wares, which constituted 4 mummies, 2 papyrus scrolls, and additional papyrus fragments. What in the hell is wrong with you Mormon apologists just getting basic, simple, first grade, correct historical information? Why can't you do that for us? You kill your credibility when you follow these stupid, lame, entirely refuted, I might add, arguments of John, I don't have a frickin' clue about Egyptology, Gee, coming from Yale University. You need to dump him and come up to date, which is what I will show you later on tonight of why you need to do that. I can't fathom making that dumb of a mistake publicly, historically, even though I probably have myself done so already. I mean, I do have 1,000 former apologetic videos where I was defending this silly stuff, so I guess I can fathom it. But I'm changing my mind based on evidence, something every rational person should do. Get a hint, Ward Radio. Okay, let's, oh man, and I lost my, there we go. Gotta have my, yeah. I can't believe they do that. There's no excuse for that kind of sloppiness. Truly, seriously. Hold on just one sec. I got to make sure I've got the right slide.
Artifacts is a different guy. Traded pagan artifact.
Okay, I've got the right one. Here we go. Okay.
Scrolls and 3 smaller scrolls to Joseph Smith.
Rock on.
After it was revealed to Smith that they contained pieces of the writings of Abraham. So Joseph sees it, he gets like some sort of revelation about Abraham, and he purchases them. He did translations in the 1830s, but then picked it up and seemed to have done most of it in the 40s.
Absolutely false. Following John Gee still, because the evidence destroys Joseph Smith, and John Gee knows that. So John Gee is making stupid shit up in order to save Joseph Smith, and it is historically invalid. Once again, I will point you very gladly to my good and dear friend. Now I can't find it. I had his book out here just a moment ago. Dan Vogel's book right here. The Book of Abraham Apologetics, a review and critique by Dan Vogel. I don't give a flying flip if you think he's an anti-Mormon and you don't like him. Master his argument because it's based upon the historical manuscripts and evidence, and John Gee has been completely destroyed by not only my friend Dan Vogel, but by Kara Cooney, by Thomas Meckes, other Egyptologists, and by Robert Rittner, who was John Gee's own professor and teacher and helped him learn Egyptian, which John Gee stupidly began to abuse, and so Rittner disowned him properly. So anyway, I'm on a rant because this is so much fun to see that in July of 2024, apologists are still using the old, stupid, refuted Mormon arguments that even the Mormon scholars no longer use, that these guys are relying on. And it gets worse. I'll show you. The more we go, the worse this gets. You're complaining about Mike Winger getting this stuff wrong? You guys haven't gotten anything right yet. That's astonishing. Your hypocrisy and the irony of this is absolutely amazing as you make mistake after mistake, which I'm very grateful for because it gives me a chance to have a lot of fun making some really good videos showing you guys how idiotic your apologetic is. I know because I used to be in your shoes. I made the same stupid arguments.
of the original. And yes, that is the facsimile one, and that's
and we also
portion
don't
that we
actually
have.
know what role it played, because all the primary sources that talk about the original papyri
Well, we'll get there.
mention how like
we'll get there.
in the Nauvoo house it like went out the door because it was so long, and all of these are just little shards and fragments.
Yeah. So
And you still can't get anything right. That is not an original source, Carden. That is a third-hand, gossipy hand-me-down from decades after the fact. Do you guys even read anything at all? It's staggering. It really is.
of the original.
Whoops, sorry. I got to get a new one. But wow, it's amazing how loopy these guys are with their arguments.
Little shards and fragments.
Yeah. So before we play the next Mike Winger clip, because now we're going to get into the meat of the arguments and discussion, we want to do a disclaimer that I'm not an expert. It's very hard to be an expert in this kind of thing because you got to know the text itself. Then you have to know Egyptology, but not just general Egyptology, because usually they focus on the high point, the high culture of Egyptian life.
But ancient Egyptology.
Yeah, but these scrolls come from about 200, so you need to specialize in that area. And then you have to understand the history of how they came to Joseph Smith and what they said about. So it's like the history and the text and this other not very often studied time period to even begin to understand this. We're not claiming we do that.
Furthermore, you still haven't gotten anything correct yet, you guys. You've been ranting and raving with your apologetic bullshit for 30 minutes in your video, and you still haven't given me any correct information, man. You don't need any of that information at all to find out whether the Book of Abraham is true or not. All of that is an apologetic distraction to take us away from the only issue that makes any kind of a difference at all. Did Joseph Smith translate the papyri correctly into the Book of Abraham? No, he did not. And I know Stephen Smoot really pushes this theory hard. Of course, his hero, he's trying to, I suspect, replace John Gee. Someone's got to. He's got to retire. His stuff is worthless. And so he's trying to utilize John Gee's ridiculous apologetic of how much knowledge you have to know in order to even dare touch the Book of Abraham. And absolutely none of that silly malarkey is necessary at all. But my, what a production they all make of it, right? Oh, that's awesome. That was fun. That was fun to see him use that old stupid apologetic also. Let's see what else these guys have. This is becoming fun and amusing. I really enjoy it. I'm going to confess, I enjoy it when apologists get on this subject because they do it so badly. And this is by far the worst.
We're not claiming we do that. We are just claiming that we can rebut some of Mike Winger's over-exaggerated claims.
And you fail to do even that, as I will show. Oh, Ward Radio. You guys need a major overhaul in your knowledge and understanding.
Yep, this is the first thing in Mike Winger's case against the Book of Abraham.
All right, let's do
Well, the truth was that they dated not to the time of Abraham, but to the 2nd century BC. 2nd century BC. Now, that's kind of a big deal. It was supposed to be written by Abraham with his own hand.
Look at his face, too. Look at that, oh, gotcha. Oh, gotcha. What's so funny is
so bad for them.
Is these guys think that what they're about to say is new. Or I would never want to be a pastor. I would never want to be pastored or be in a church of somebody that literally thinks I'm so dumb. You could literally say this exact same soundbite about what? The book of John. Listen.
Well, I'm sure glad you saved me from saying you're absolutely dumb, Carden. I appreciate you saying it for me because that's absolutely dumb. Absolutely. I love your mockery of Mike Winger and all that, but you fail to see how ridiculous your own stance is, which is what makes this so amusing to someone like me. It's quite amazing. Now, the poor apologists, so that the rest of us can understand, they don't have anything else to fall back on except this kind of mockery and slapstick antics, because it's not that it's not new, it's that it's so damning that Mike Winger is properly bringing forward, and it hits them right in the heart, and they have no defense, so they must get our minds off of the actual argument Mike Winger is making here. That's what they're trying to do. You didn't get it done with me, and you're not going to get it done with my very sharp audience who has already, I can see they've already caught on to what you're doing, and you've been caught. So this is amazing. It goes right over their heads at Ward Radio, though. Let's keep going. I have a lot more to show you tonight, and this is getting fun. Let's see. I do believe that was the one that I just showed.
Yeah, this is the first thing in Mike Winger's case against the Book of Abraham.
All right, let's go.
So the truth was that they dated not to the time of Abraham, but to the second.
Hold on. Sorry, I've got to make sure.
Yeah, this is the first thing in Mike Winger's case against.
Okay, this is the one we just saw. Yeah. Now, this is really important for the dating as well. And that's what these guys do not want you to understand. So, and I will get to that. There's a better way.
The book of John. Listen.
The 2nd century BC.
Well,
not the book of John. You can say that book about the book of Genesis. Some of our oldest copies we have of the Old Testament, which are purporting to speak about Moses, who led the Exodus sometimes 400 years, 500 years before our oldest dated manuscript of the book of Genesis, of the book of Exodus, of the book of Deuteronomy. Are you smelling what I'm stepping in?
I'm smelling.
I sure am smelling the shit you're stepping in, because your argument is shit, Carden. For real. You notice what he's doing, and he does this throughout his video. He actually believes that this is a legitimate way to argue. And I get it. I get it, because I did the same thing as an apologist, for real. I did. I've got my own other old videos to prove it. When I couldn't refute a claim against the Book of Mormon, or in this instance, a claim against the Book of Abraham, I would begin attacking the Bible as if that's the answer. What this does is it leaves the problem against the Book of Mormon unanswered, and it presents another problem for the Mormon apologist, because the Bible also is one of the Mormon scriptures. So you can't defend the Book of Abraham, so you attack the Bible. There is a gigantic disconnect here with this logic, and Carden can't see it. I know where you're coming from, bro. I came from the same wagon, man. Unfortunately for you, it sucks. Your argument fails. It puts Joseph Smith deeper into the falsehood hole than you're hoping it does. And that's unfortunate for you, but that's the way it is. Now he's failed with 2 books, the Book of Abraham and the Bible. So let's keep going. We've got a lot more. Oh boy, have we got a lot more fun. Woohoo! This is fun for me. I can't help it. Not because I'm mocking the apologists, even though I have fun doing that. I'm mocking them for a very valid reason. They, by now, come on, it's 2024. By now, you've got to be up to snuff or just shut up about this whole subject. You guys, Ward Radio, you have no business talking about this. None whatsoever, not until you get a lot better educated. Sincerely. And your reliance on your own Mormon scholars, that's going to have to become part of your education for the future because they have been refuted. That's why they've stopped talking about it also in the last 2 or 3 years. No one's talking about the Book of Abraham anymore, except the upcoming new guy, Stephen Smoot. He's trying to make a name for himself. But Kerry Mulstein, man, he's gone off and doing commentary on the book of Isaiah or something, you know. John Gee's doing something about social values of family and all that. None of them are touching the book of Abraham for a very damn good reason, Carden. You would do yourself a good favor and find out why they aren't touching it and why you shouldn't be either. But I'm going to keep on blowing your arguments out of the water for tonight because you stupidly posted your arguments, which have failed.
The original. This papyrus is from the 200 BC, and what the argument that Mike Winger is making here is in the text of the Book of Abraham itself. It says that this was written by Abraham by his own hand, but it is about 1800 years later. I don't know if Mike Winger has said that part yet or not. We can just play the rest of the video.
Yeah, but our earliest copies of the Book of Acts.
But it says it was written by his hand.
Finally. Whew. Finally, they said something accurate. Okay. Is there hope? Let's see. What did I write about this? Yeah, I just baked. Yeah. But now that they got this accurate, they throw it all away with the stupidest apologetic argument there is to make, and you guys can almost guess what it is. So here we go. It's time for more fun. I promise. This is something else.
Yeah, if the original was written by his hand and a copyist came through and they copied that and they said, like in the Book of Acts, you don't think there's been a million copyists that copy the Book of Acts where it says like, oh, dear Theophilus or whatever the guy's name is.
So, have you noticed the assumption they're bringing in with this? Now, this has actually become a mainstay apologetic argument because of one of the very precious few Mormon apologists that I still respect, Kevin Barney. The idea, however, is fatally flawed that there are copies of the Book of Abraham, and what we have is a copy of the Book of Abraham. The flaw is this: they have to ignore what Joseph Smith himself said about the provenance of the papyri. Joseph Smith and his closest followers, all of them becoming prophets later on, except for Parley Pratt, but I mean Wilford Woodruff, John Taylor, all of them said that the papyri was written by the hand of Abraham 2000 BC, 4,000 years ago. And then it was put for safekeeping with the mummy, and no one saw it until it got to Joseph Smith to bring it forward in the last days. The eyewitnesses to the papyri themselves, having Joseph Smith teach them about the papyri, about the mummies, about the Egyptians, the hieroglyphics, the whole ball of wax, came from Joseph Smith There was not a book of Abraham handed down and copied and recopied and recopied and recopied. There's only one. There can only be one. And that's the one Joseph Smith got and translated. That's where the apologetic argument fails on this score. And it's a critical argument because isn't it a little bit too convenient, wouldn't you think? That the apologists, when it suits their purposes, you damn right we're going to quote the prophet Joseph Smith. He's going to give you the true doctrine. Shut it the hell up and believe him. But on another argument, when it becomes inconvenient, ignore him. Now, the reason they have to ignore Joseph Smith in this seriously, fatally problematic whole issue of the Book of Abraham and the papyri, the reason they have to ignore him is because now we're in 2024. From Joseph Smith's day to our day, we have acquired enough information historically, philologically, religiously, archaeologically, translation-wise, etc., Egyptologically. We've advanced enough in our knowledge to have a basic, solid understanding of chronology, of the linguistics of how the hieroglyphics work, of how the demotic works, of how the hieratic works. We now really do have a overall good general grasp of the pyramid texts, the Book of the Dead, the Book of Breathings, etc. We understand much more clearly now than we did about the Egyptian art and the iconography and all of this extra new information we have the benefit of from the last 200 years irrefutably show Joseph Smith didn't know jack about what he was talking about. He wasn't only wrong, he was so wrong and wrong again and wrong again and wrong again that he's not even wrong. That's how bad it is for Joseph Smith. The apologists are completely, blissfully, brain dead, unaware of all of this. They do not grasp the real problem in any manner. It's fascinating. Their ignorance is very telling. And it's because, of course, they have testimonies. So they don't need to really do all this studying that they say needs to be done in order to test the Book of Abraham. I've done that studying. And that's why I'm convinced it's not true. Because the evidence is firmly against it. So Ward Radio, it's your move. But the game is already over. That's what you're not aware of. You still think the game's going on. Let's keep going, though, because it really does get worse for them. They keep bringing up worse and worse stuff. You wouldn't think they could after this, but yeah, for real.
And a copyist came through and they copied that. And they said, like in the Book of Acts, you don't think there's been a million copyists that copy the Book of Acts where it says like, oh, dear Theophilus or whatever the guy's name is at the beginning of Acts.
So this is where Mike Winger is overstating his case a little bit, because that's exactly what it's like in the ancient world. And
absolutely false. That is not what it's like in the ancient world. You guys get off your dead lazy learner butts and do some research, man. That's the dumbest thing I've heard you say yet. It is not valid in the ancient world. Mike Winger got it correct. The dating of the papyri is what destroys Joseph Smith. It doesn't support him. It's true. The Egyptologists, notice It's not the Mormons filled with the Holy Ghost that teaches them all truth. It's those goddamn heathen Egyptologists that found out the papyri dates to Ptolemaic times. And the Mormons scholars have been forced to accept that evidence because it's accurate. But in order to do so, they have to ignore what Joseph Smith said because he was so far out in stupid left field, I'm so wrong, it's painful side of things. You can no longer defend Joseph Smith by using Joseph Smith because with all of his prophetic apparatus and power, he blew it. End of story. So the dating of the papyri destroys the book of Abraham because Joseph Smith also incorrectly said Abraham himself wrote his book on this papyri, the one I have right now, the ones we have right now that was given back to the church in 1967. That papyri. But let's keep going because I know, I'm sounding like a broken record, but when ignorance prevails, it's king. And with Ward Radio, it's staggering how wrong they can be on so much. Let's show you some more. This is almost painful. Not really, but wow. Wow.
Is overstating his case a little bit because that's exactly what it's like in the ancient world. And in fact, we have
Pythagoras was releasing books 400 years after he died.
We have what is supposedly the most ancient of Egyptian writings called the Shabako stone. And it begins with this. It begins with the announcement that His Majesty wrote this book down anew. However, there's a Professor Seath who obligingly explains that it is normal Egyptian usage to express the idea that the king ordered a copy to be made. So when it says he wrote this down anew or he wrote it with his hand, you're expressing the idea that a copy was made.
And your whole argument is pure bunk. And thank you, Dan Vogel, for, thank you, Big Cheese. That's very generous of you. I appreciate that. Yes, appreciate the support. Dan Vogel, my dear friend, has also pointed out that Joseph Smith literally, to one visitor, I believe it was Quincy, wasn't it, Dan? Was it Josiah Quincy that Joseph Smith pointed to the hieroglyph and said, there, that's the signature of Abraham. I've got a picture of that hieroglyph. I don't know if I can... I've got it in my book. I've got it taped in. Oh, I can't show it to you. I'll show it to you another time. It's that little yellow part right there that I've got colored and then squared off. That's in the papyri. That's where the signature of Abraham was that Joseph Smith pointed to. I'll do a video on it. I've done videos on that. Ward Radio, you're just out to lunch, guys. You just failed. You don't even get an F. That's too high of a grade for your silliness. Paul Osborne is also agreeing with me here. So this is proof that Joseph Smith was wrong. See what they're doing? And again, they have nothing else to fall onto, right? They're using Hugh Nibley's old, outworn, and completely refuted, outdated information out of his book, Abraham in Egypt, on this idea of being written down by your own hand. Even if it's a copy, it meant the original, but there wasn't any copy. Here's the downside of this using Hugh Nibley's argument, because they have nothing else, is because Hugh Nibley was wrong too. Because the papyri were not handed down. They were safely tucked in with the mummy for 4,000 years until they got to Joseph Smith. That is what Joseph Smith, Wilford Woodruff, Parley P. Pratt taught. Who are you going to believe, Ward Radio? Wilford Woodruff, Parley Pratt, one of the quorum of the 12 apostles, Orson Pratt, and Joseph Smith? Or are you going to believe Stephen Smoot and John Gee. There's your choice. Good luck making it, because either one leads to a damnable, frustrating position of you Mormons having lost the war with this Book of Abraham authenticity. Nobody can save it. I'm just saying. But let's keep going. I am sincerely not done yet. There is more to show. That makes this so interesting.
You're expressing the idea that a copy was made. Any copy of the original is considered in the ancient times to have been written by the original person.
Oh,
so, and Mike just keeps hitting on this again and again, like this is some sort of silver bullet that just completely destroys the argument that because it says it was written by Abraham, but it shows up 1800 years after Abraham, then Joseph Smith had no idea what he was talking about.
And Mike Winger is exactly correct in that. The fact that you don't grasp that is proof to me that you guys are clueless. You don't have any business talking about this subject until you do a whole lot more homework like the rest of us have. I get it. Your intentions are good. They're not good enough. You've lost this argument. Mike Winger is fundamentally correct in that. And the crazy thing is, you silly Mormons, you silly Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Sainters, you really love the idea of eyewitness testimony. Oh my holy God, you blow it out of proportion when it comes to the Book of Mormon. But you simply throw it under the bus and completely ignore it when it comes to the eyewitness account of the papyri. You're so inconsistent, you guys. You're just ridiculously inconsistent when it comes to eyewitness testimony. It's breathtaking. And it's certainly not impressive in the way you're hoping it is. So let's keep going. Got a lot more to go through. We are nowhere near done with this charade.
Completely destroys the argument that because it says it was written by Abraham, but it shows up 1800 years after Abraham, then Joseph Smith had no idea what he was talking about. But it actually fits in perfectly with ancient understandings of texts and copies thereof.
Like, has he never watched an atheist try and argue against the archaeological biblical evidences? Like,
Carden is so hopelessly brain dead clueless that it's laughable, man. It's sad. It just is. Poor Carden. He still doesn't get the issue.
biblical evidences. Like, he's literally sounding just like an atheist arguing against the Bible, but now he's just an evangelical arguing against the Book of Mormon. And every single one of the arguments that he makes against atheistic archaeologists, okay, is now getting made against him. But you can't have a blind spot this big without pride being involved. Like, wildly.
Whoa, what a self-incriminating admission of guilt. Carden Ellis. Your blind spot is vastly larger than Mike Winger's, my friend. So you too must be full of this overweening pride that you're trying to pin on Mike Winger, who has been actually arguing correctly based on the evidence, and you have not been. Wow, dude. Oh, dude. You gotta shut up, man. You're in trouble. You are in deep trouble here, brother. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try to get off this one so he doesn't get totally buried under. Ooh.
Without pride being involved. Like, wildly excessive pride being involved. So anyway, we'll keep going.
The 2nd century BC. 2nd century BC. Now, that's kind of a big deal. was supposed to be written by Abraham with his own hand, but the papyrus dates to 2nd century BC. That's about 1,800 years off. That's almost as far off as you are from Jesus.
Yeah, so just a misunderstanding of what that even means. So
no, there is no misunderstanding on Mike Winger's part. He's got this. That is seriously accurate. The misunderstanding is all on you guys because you fail to take seriously what your own prophet Joseph Smith himself said. And I understand why you're so completely ignorant of what Joseph Smith said, because John Gee doesn't talk about this either, and neither does Kerry Mullenstein, neither did Hugh Nibley, and neither did Michael Dennis Rhodes, and all you poor, helpless apologists have done is just read your own apologists, imagining, like I did when I was in your shoes, that you've got all the answers, and you're the ones who have it wrong. When your eyes open, I promise, a lot of us have been there, and we will cry with you over the pain you're going to go through when you realize how wrong you were. We've done that. We get it. Give us a holler. We'll cry with you, brothers. Seriously. Let's go on. Let's go on.
on this. So now
Book
this
of John's
next
not
clip,
true either because
this
the
next
oldest
clip,
papyri.
Mike Winger's like, if that wasn't good enough, now he's gonna gish gallop, and he's just gonna quote after quote after quote of renowned Egyptologists that disprove the Book of Abraham. So we're gonna do this kind of long quote right here, and this is the main part of his argument in this whole video that he did.
Okay.
So what do Egyptologists actually say about it? Let me read it to you, because that's what I would want to know, right?
Yeah, you mean the Egyptologists that say Moses didn't exist? Oh, do you mean the Egyptologists that say, oh yeah, the Exodus isn't real? Oh, do you mean the Egyptologists that say there's no evidence of ancient Israel up until they found that one stele, and then half the Egyptologists still deny it? You know, like, I mean, are you quoting those Egyptologists, Mike Winger? Okay.
Carden is so brain dead clueless, it's mind-boggling. Carden, you're not helping the Book of Abraham and Joseph Smith by also pointing out the problems of the Bible that the true prophet, whose job it is to give us true scripture and correct the Bible, also failed to solve. You're killing Joseph Smith stronger than I am with your idiotic apologetic, man. You're gonna have to figure this out, dude. I'm telling you. Oh, this sidestepping of the problem of the Book of Abraham in order to point to the problem of the Bible does not help you. I can't say it any plainer than that, my brother. I just can't.
Something, Luke? Sorry.
No. We're good.
I thought I heard you just barely about to say something.
Dr. W.M. Flinders Petrie from the London University says the following. I've examined the illustrations given in the Pearl of Great Price. In the first place, they are copies, very badly done, of well-known Egyptian subjects, of which I have dozens of examples.
Yeah, they're copies, and they were included as extras. You know, there were no claims made other than the ones that you are assuming, but okay, keep going.
Secondly, they are all many centuries later than Abraham.
Once again, neither of these things have anything to do with what the Book of Abraham is what it says.
That's like testing the papyri of P52 and saying, I'm sorry, the New Testament can't be real because it was written many centuries, many decades after Jesus Christ. It's a bunch of hogwash.
And actually, that's wrong also. Because if the facsimiles are a part of the Book of Abraham, like Joseph Smith himself said they were, then if they're false, so is the Book of Abraham, because Joseph Smith is the one that translated the facsimiles. You guys can't figure that out? I mean, what's so hard about it? This is not rocket science, man. It's astonishing. Carden is still off chasing Bible windmills, imagining that he's slaying anti-Mormon dragons by continuing to bring forward manuscript problems of the Bible, which I agree with you, Carden. It is my looking into the biblical scholarship that helped destroy my false faith in the false knowledge Mormonism gave me about the Bible and Joseph Smith correcting it in the first place. My suspicion is you too will arrive at this conclusion based on the evidence. If you're actually wanting the truth after all, I guess time will tell. Let's keep going. Carden's got a lot more here.
To get through.
Okay.
E from the Haskell Oriental Museum and the University of Chicago says the following: Joseph Smith's interpretation of them as part of a unique revelation through Abraham, therefore, very clearly demonstrates that he was totally unacquainted with the significance of these documents and absolutely ignorant of the simplest facts of Egyptian writing and civilization.
Yes, which he also claimed to be.
Now,
which is why through small and simple things, great things are brought to pass. And nobody ever claimed that he translated them like an academic. They claimed that the book came through the gift and power of God. We don't know.
No. Entirely false. Joseph Smith absolutely did claim to know the Egyptian, even if nobody else wants to make that claim for him. He let people know he knew it. I mean, his discussion with the Green Mountain Boys. Look that up, Carden. Look how he described, were I an Egyptian, I would say this. And then he throws out a whole bunch of Egyptian. No, Carden, Joseph Smith did claim to know the Egyptian. Where do you think he got the explanations for the name of the king in facsimile number 3? He claimed he translated the hieroglyphs in the facsimiles to give us the information. What's the name of the king in facsimile number 3, Carden? There's my question to you, bub. You are entirely out of bounds with this. Completely wrong. Again. How many times is this now? I mean, seriously, 6, 7? I'm trying hard not to exaggerate, but seriously, you've gotten one thing right out of the whole gosh dang night so far, and I've been going for an hour and a half, and I can't find hardly anything you guys have said that's right, and that's not going to change. I still have 15 more slides to go through that will show how stupidly wrong not only your argument is, but your knowledge. And you know what? It's so unnecessary. The reason I'm calling you out is because it's so unnecessary, because it is all available. I found it. So can you. Mike Winger found it, and you're mocking him. And he's right. Whoa. Dudes, you gotta do your homework. homies. I'm not done with you yet, though. I'm not letting you off easy tonight, Carden. You opened your mouth. I'll open mine in response. Let's dance, my brother. Let's dance. Oh, is this the one? I hope I didn't get this confused. Hold on.
Easy to get through. Okay. E from the Haskell Oriental Museum in the
I hope I didn't just mess up here. Hold on.
No. Okay.
All right, hold on. I got to double check myself here just to make sure I don't mess up.
Easy to get through.
Okay.
E from the Haskell Oriental Museum.
Okay, hold on. I know which one it is now. I mismarked my.
Easy to get through. Okay. E from the Haskell Oriental Museum.
Okay, this is the one I got to give you. Okay, here we go. I don't want to do read.
Yes, but
And,
all
we're
thereof.
gonna.
The translation of everything we carry around to church is the gift and power of God. Some people call it the catalyst theory. Some people call all kinds of other different theories, people much smarter than us. But yes, this does not hold water. Okay. I probably have to keep going faster through these clips, don't I?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Let's read a few more. Dr. Arthur C. Mace, assistant curator from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, from the Department of Egyptian Art. He says the Book of Abraham, it is hardly necessary to say, is a pure fabrication. Dr. John Peters
Very
from the
scholarly
University of Pennsylvania
analysis
says
right there.
the
Yeah, that was super good.
plates contained in the Pearl of Great Price are rather comical and a very poor imitation of the Egyptian originals.
See, once again, nothing to do because the facsimiles are obviously real. That's kind of interesting, actually.
Aha. Did we just see a ding-a-ling ready to make an argument and realize that the facsimiles refute his argument? Is that why he stopped making his argument? There's hope for these guys once they start using the noodle instead of repeating the idiotic apologetic arguments. I loved that part of this video. He caught him. Let me play this again. He caught the problem he was in if he continued with his argument. Let me play this again. This is good.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but
And,
all
yeah,
thereof.
we're gonna.
The translation of everything we carry around to church is the gift and power of God. Some people call it the catalyst theory. Some people call all kinds of other different theories, people much smarter than us. But yes, this does not hold water. Okay. I probably have to keep going faster through these clips, don't I?
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Let's read a few more. Dr. Arthur C. Mace, assistant curator from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, from the Department of Egyptian Art. He says the Book of Abraham, it is hardly necessary to say, is a pure fabrication. Dr. John Peters
Very
from the University
scholarly
of Pennsylvania
analysis
says
right there.
the
Yeah, that was super good.
plates contained in the Pearl of Great Price are rather comical and a very poor imitation of the Egyptian originals.
See, once again, nothing to do because the facsimiles are obviously real. That's kind of interesting, actually.
I love it. All right, let's keep going, because even though it breaks David's heart to see Latter-day Saints walking away from the church, it's because the church has been lying to us our whole lives, and we're after the truth. Once again, we are not having a faith crisis. The church is having a truth crisis. We follow the truth, not claims that end up being false, as the church has given us concerning the scriptures, the prophets, etc. So let's keep going with this. There's more. We're making good progress.
It is neither good history nor good science is the very, very first scholarly quote.
Oh, you can find all sorts of stuff. But
yeah.
Mike Winger's response to that is, well, there's good answers for it. It's like, yes, and you've spent however many dozens of hours looking for them. And
yeah, my suggestion is you guys start spending dozens of hours looking for the reality and truth like Mike Winger did, like I've done, following in the footsteps of Dan Vogel and Robert Rittner and all of the other good ones, Cara Cooney and Thomas Meckes and Paul Osborne, and yes, maybe even perhaps the Backyard Professor. Although I get it, I'm an apostate, so I can't possibly tell you anything that's real or true. Everything I say is suspect because of some rinky-dink label that the church teaches you should put on me in order to avoid Satan influencing you. Yeah, I get it. I was there once. You'll come around. You've got good brains. I can't wait till you start using them. Let's keep going.
It is neither good history nor good science is the very, very first scholarly quote.
Oh, you can find all sorts of stuff. But
yeah.
Mike Winger's response to that is, well, there's good answers for it. It's like, yes, and you've spent however many dozens of hours looking for them. And
did I just repeat one? I bet I did. Looks like I did. I did. However, I do have another note that I wrote down. That's because in some cases, with the Bible, there are actually good answers to those problems. There are none with the book of Abraham. That's what we're finding out tonight. So let's keep going. All right, I won't repeat now. This is the next one.
I pull out some information on these scholars that he pulled up in a bit. You probably didn't spend like more than maybe 4 hours studying this, and probably only from one point of view. So just because you haven't found them after that long doesn't mean there's not answers to these things out here.
And look, by the way, the first two quotes, I'm pulling them up literally here. The first two quotes that you get off of Wikipedia on the historicity of the Bible is scholars saying, quote, it's imaginative entertainment that precedes artistic expression. All right. And then apparently Daniel Meisler, the Bible is fiction, a collection of evidence by Daniel Meisler. That's hit number 2. And it says, the Bible's simply, quote, made up because, one, we're afraid of death, and we can use such beliefs to control people. So good job, Mike Winger. Yeah. Good job, Mike Winger, providing us with an absolute nothing burger that couldn't be said about the Bible.
And again, poor Carden misses the entire point. Pointing out what scholars have said about the defects of the Bible does nothing to save the book of Abraham from its own defects. That's the flaw in this entire philosophy that Carden lives by to answer every anti-Mormon claim against both the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham. He will immediately begin attacking the Bible, imagining that saves the day. What that does is not only do we now see he is incapable of saving the book of Abraham, but he is also taking the Bible out with the book of Abraham with his own scholarship. This is so wackadoodle-loony, and he doesn't see it. Carden doesn't see that's the effect of having this philosophy. Amazing. Shall I give him a quarter so he can buy a clue? I'm thinking maybe I ought to out of charity. Let's keep going. There's more. And I know you're not going to believe me when I say this. It actually does get worse. I promise. It's mind-boggling.
And in the exact same way about the Bible.
Yep.
Anyway, do I keep playing the clip?
Yep, let's keep going.
Okay, keep playing the clip.
Reverend Professor C.A.B. Mercer, PhD, he says the following. The explanatory notes to his facsimile cannot be taken seriously by any scholar, as they seem to be undoubtedly the work of pure imagination.
So notice a lot of focus is going on the facsimiles right now.
Yes, that is exactly correct. That was the point. These guys are finding that as a defect. because they have no other choice. The explanations in the facsimiles belong to Joseph Smith, and they were known to be wrong in 1912. And like Winger properly points out, and in 2011, once again, Robert Rittner, also in updating this entire issue from 1912, actually began in 1856. But Rittner's updating, Klaus Baer updated it in 1968 and found the same problem. Robert Rittner came along in 2011, updated it again, and in 200 years of solid scholarly advancement, not one item has been found that's in favor of Joseph Smith's interpretations in over 200 years. He was wrong in 1842. He is wrong in 2024. That's the bottom line. Let's keep going.
And keep going.
Which is basically almost non sequitur at this point, but let's keep going.
Edward Meyer from the University of Berlin. The Egyptian papyrus, which Smith declared to be the Book of Abraham and translated, it's in quotes there, translated or explained in his fantastical way, and of which our 3 specimens are published in the Pearl of Great Price, are parts of the well-known Book of the Dead. Although the reproductions are very bad, one can easily recognize familiar scenes from this book.
You know, it would have been really nice if the Protestant mobs of the 1800s and the 19th century would have just stopped killing us and burning our houses down and driving us from city to city and engaging in violence, slaughtering men, women, and children for just maybe 2 months, long enough for Joseph Smith to have clarified a couple of the positions on the Book of Abraham, which was...
You've had 200 years of a line of so-called prophets, seers, revelators, and translators to clarify the issue. Stop your bullshit, Carden. You know, I mean, for real. You're not fooling anybody with that line of idiocy. Seriously. It's their fault. They killed poor Joseph Smith. Well, Brigham Young, I suppose, could have clarified it. Instead, he went off and taught Adam God and put that false doctrine in the temple endowment in a lecture at the Vale for 70 years. Who's not clarifying stuff, Carden? Did Wilford Woodruff clarify anything? No. Did Lorenzo Snow? No, he got sidetracked on tithing. Give us your money, baby. We need your money. Which prophet has done any clarifying whatsoever? Your apologists muddy up the issue and your prophets ignore it. The only ones looking at it are the Egyptologists, and they've got the correct information, not your prophets. And I get it. Man, that sucks if you're an apologist. I've been there. I know. I get it. But that's the bottom line. Let's keep going.
Well, they bring up a point. This is one of the stronger points, is that these 3 facsimiles, we have the 3 facsimiles. There's like the circle-y one. There's the one with Abraham on the throne teaching the king of Egypt. Yeah. And then there's the one of him like, on the bench about to get stabbed. And they're saying that these come from the Book of the Dead, the Book of Breathings, which is not the Book of Abraham. And so that is kind of compelling because Joseph Smith put down like interpretations of, especially the one that you have up on the screen saying, this is Abraham, he's getting stabbed. And they're saying, no, this is not what that is.
And there's a very important reason why this is such a compelling argument, because it follows the evidence, and the evidence demonstrates the validity of the argument. That's why it's so compelling, right? Now, it's interesting that We need to know when you apologists are going to recognize that Joseph Smith was wrong when he said 2 plus 2 is 19. You see, there's no evidence for that, but you insist he got it right. When are you going to come to realize that 2 plus 2 does not equal 19? The evidence isn't pointing that direction, whether by revelation or through coincidence is irrelevant, right? Let's keep looking.
Careful study has convinced me that Smith probably believed seriously to have deciphered the ancient hieroglyphics, but that he utterly failed. What he calls the Book of Abraham is a funeral Egyptian text, probably not older than the Greek ages.
So once again, this is they're just looking at the pictures mostly is what he's talking about for the Book of the Breathings, because obviously the Book of Abraham itself is not the Book of the Breathings. All right.
Yeah, obviously. Well, the reason they're looking at the facsimiles, at the pictures, is because they are entirely correct in their critique. That's what you're failing to grasp, Ward Radio. Smith was wrong. And yes, you're right, though, that the Book of Abraham is not the Book of Breathings. The downside is Joseph Smith thought it was, because he translated that Book of Breathings into the Book of Abraham. That's just not in the hieroglyphics. And that's why it's a false translation. That's why you haven't convinced the world that it's a true translation, because it's not. Let's keep going. We're making good progress. We're about done. This is too fun to lose. Oh, and we've got some very, very important stuff coming up right now.
There's his experts. I'm going to read a little bit from other experts from BYU, Egyptologists, far beyond our pay grade or Mike Winger's pay grade. Here we've got John Gee, probably a name that you recognize, Carden.
Yeah, he was Hugh Nibley's assistant.
Yeah, and he says, in comparing Joseph Smith's understanding of the facsimiles with ancient Egyptian understanding of the facsimiles, we are comparing two unknowns. While some, but not all, studies by Latter-day Saints have been over-eager, so see, he's giving benefit of the doubt. He's attacking his own side where it needs it.
Well, he's just being an actual scholar.
Yes. Studies by Latter-day Saints have been overeager to find similarities between Joseph Smith's explanations of various figures and those of Egyptologists. Studies by critics have generally been unwilling to grant that Joseph Smith could have gotten anything correct, even by coincidence.
Yeah, the real deep irony here is Joseph Smith didn't get anything correct, whether by coincidence or revelation. I mean, think about it. When it comes by revelation, there really should be no such thing as coincidence, should there? You see, Gee doesn't even have anything valid to say anymore. He's all washed up. Let's keep going and see who else these guys pull out of the hat to save the Book of Abraham, which they utterly fail to do, as I will continue demonstrating.
With the last name of Rhodes. And he says many of the prophet's explanations of the hypocephalus, which is like the circle one, I think that's supposed to go under the head, illustrating in facsimile 2, are supported by our present understanding of ancient Egyptian religion. So one of the facsimiles actually does get a lot of things right, and are in fact especially typical of late Egyptian religious writings, which was the period that the papyri came from. So Joseph Smith is getting a number of things right in the right time period of Egyptian history, because Egyptian history is very long. One or two could conceivably be dismissed as mere chance or lucky guessing, but the many correct interpretations taken together are impossible to ignore. It's clear that Joseph Smith knew what he was talking about.
Now realize one very important contextual note with Michael Dennis Rhodes' claim here, which is 100% false, is he only said things like this when he was in front of a Mormon audience, in front of the audience who belonged to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He never once talked like that at any Egyptological conference he ever attended. And he knows he's wrong. He was entirely refuted by Kara Cooney, by Thomas Mekas, by Robert Rittner. And he, Michael Dennis Rhodes, so lacked in the capability of translating and understanding Egyptian that he plagiarized Robert Rittner's work in order to make it look like he knew what he was talking about. That's in Robert Rittner's book, The Joseph Smith Papyri, The Complete Collection. I've got it here somewhere. Not quite sure where I put it right now, but it is indeed a telling thing to recognize the actual context that Rittner never told any other actual Egyptologists this information. He only told the Mormons. Now, Ward Radio, if you have the capability of thinking through this, why would you suppose that is? I'll let you ponder that while we move on to your next point. Hope I got the right one.
With the last name of Rhodes, and he says many of the prophets.
Yeah, I've got the right one. Okay, 46.
Taken together are impossible to ignore. It's clear that Joseph Smith knew what he was talking about.
Well, and also, did Joseph Smith anticipate this to be in the canon?
Well, that's actually a good point, because it was originally published in the Times and Seasons, and we had a lot more than we have now. The writings of people that were talking about how much there was seems to indicate that it just went somewhere.
So we don't
have the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not calling this Mormon Apocrypha, okay? But I'm saying the proof of Joseph Smith's prophethood was established in the Book of Mormon.
Yes.
And they can never attack the Book of Mormon.
So we got to go to the next
Book
thing.
of Mormon. Anyway, I'm just saying, to me, this seems like trying to debunk Mike Winger by going after, I don't know, the Book of Enoch. Now that's not the best comparison, because,
like I've said time and again, poor Carden is just so brain dead clueless about all of this.
For that, but it's that Mike Winger set it up as this is irrefutable. These are the facts. You can't argue with them, and it's just not the case. I'm going to go into a little more detail on this, because the pictures, it's true, you come from the Book of the Breathings.
Yeah.
However,
These come from, this is something that Joseph Smith got right, actually.
Oh, well, show us what you got then, man. We've been waiting all night for this. Haven't got anything close to this yet. Let's check it out.
Like 750 Jewish texts, of Egyptian texts, and you see Abraham popping up, you see Moses popping up, you see Enoch popping up, you see Adam popping up, you see a number of ancient biblical figures popping up in these texts. Abraham is one of the most mentioned ones, and the texts, the place and the time period that most of the texts mentioning Abraham come from are the time and place that the papyri that Joseph Smith translated the Book of Abraham from, that's where they come from. So he's getting some things right there that's he shouldn't be getting right if he's just fabricating this out of midair. And there's
no. Only in Mormon apologetic land is this case a reality. Let's keep going.
like 750 Jewish texts, of Egyptian texts, and you see Abraham. Like 750 Jewish texts.
Sorry, I repeated the same one. I apologize. Hold on. Let me get the next one. Boy, we don't want to listen to that charade again. Let's get to the next one.
He shouldn't be getting right if he's just fabricating this out of midair. And there's also another case with these pictures that Joseph Smith gave interpretations of. The religious art back then, it's hard to make. Papyrus is hard to make, and people would usually borrow. Nowadays, we would call this cultural appropriation. But just like I mentioned with the Egyptian text, how they're bringing in a lot of biblical figures, but still having like Osiris and Or and the jackal heads and all these things like that in their text. The Jews also, we have evidence of the Jews pulling over some Egyptian stories and Egyptian iconography into their worship and reinterpreting it, reimagining it. And actually, one of these appears in the Bible. The story of Lazarus and the rich man, which I mentioned earlier.
Lazarus and the rich man was stolen?
That was originally the tale of Sente Kamwas, and Abraham is substituted for Osiris, just like we see in Facsimiles 1 and 3. In Facsimiles 1 and 3, the Egyptian Abraham, what Joseph Smith said was Abraham's actually supposed to be Osiris. Well, that's the way that this story was reimagined by Jesus in the telling of Lazarus and the rich man in the Bible.
Oh.
That's not the only time. The Testament of Abraham has a reinterpretation of vignettes from the Book of the Dead. So once again, the Book of the Dead that they're saying, no, it can't be the Book of Abraham because this is the Book of the Dead. Reimaginings with Abel taking the place of Osiris and angels taking the place of Egyptian gods, and the scribe Thoth becoming the biblical Enoch.
Oh, cool, man.
Isn't it interesting that all you have to do is mention a couple of biblical personalities and it turns the apologists right on? So there's a story here and a story there of an Egyptian parallel, and bam, all of a sudden, Joseph Smith's a true prophet. But here is their pinnacle piece of evidence. And I have been leading up to this the entire night up to this point, because now we get something solid that's going to destroy we critics' stance. And Ward Radio found it first. And this is why I wanted to do this video, because I need your guys' help in trying to figure this out. I've never seen anything like this before, and I can't comprehend how Ward Radio arrived at it. They damn sure didn't get it from John Gee. He's too incompetent. So what are we going to do with this new evidence that I'm about to present to you? Pay special attention, because I really need to figure this out. I don't even know if Dan Vogel can help us here tonight. I'm hoping so.
Oh, cool, man.
And we have one more that I put in the Discord, another little parallel between these facsimiles and the story of Abraham.
Okay.
And so this is the thing, when people look at these facsimiles, as you're pulling that, when people look at these facsimiles and say, well, this is the Book of the Dead, yes, except this scroll came from a small enclave of Jews living much later than most of these stories come from. And so we don't know what it meant to those Jews. Maybe this picture in general, it's kind of like they memed it or something like that. These pictures mean certain things to that high ancient Egyptian culture that you're talking about, but that's not where the scrolls came from. The scrolls came from these more Egyptian Jewish type of people in a certain place at a certain time. That does have a lot of parallels to Abraham. This is one of them. So Abraham, in facsimile 1, was like laying on a lion bed couch type of thing. And so this is a picture of a lion couch and a person laying on it, and that circled word, once we get back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the facsimile, and then this is another picture. Ancient
here's
picture.
the circle
That
word,
circled thing down there is Abraham. And so here we have an association of Abraham with the lion couch.
Okay.
And so we do have these parallels, and it's just hard to say for certain. And
All right, it's obvious I couldn't fool Dan Vogel. I didn't think I'd be able to. Okay, so what these two at Ward Radio are blissfully ignorant of, and I choose my word deliberately here, the ignorance is just thick here. This is from the Greek magical papyri. Okay. And he's right. It dates approximately to the same era, the same time as the papyri themselves, anywhere from 200 to, 1 AD. Actually, the Greek magical papyri stretch way off into Christian times. This particular fragment, I believe didn't Rittner date it to about 50 BC, Dan? I can't exactly remember. Anyway, my point is simply this. There is absolutely no parallel here whatsoever. This is an old argument that John Gee used first, and he claimed that it was Abraham on a lion couch in the Greek papyri, and that it identified Abraham on the lion couch, and that the priest was trying to kill Abraham on the lion couch. So when more sober Egyptologists began to analyze this, they discovered some very interesting materials. Number one, Abraham's name is under that lion couch along with a whole bunch of other biblical names. They're what Rittner calls abracadabra names, not in the form of mockery, understand, but actual abracadabra names. It was a potency spell that was being discussed with this exact fragment, with this picture. And in order to give the spell more power, let's say, the Greek, the guy saying the prayer, would use every and any kind of name from every and any kind of ancient religious pantheon. That's why Greek gods were named, biblical gods were named, Persian gods were named. Names were just invented and crammed together. There are names in the magical papyri, I've read these, that are that flipping long. I'm not exaggerating. You can find this in Bet's Greek magical papyri. They're hundreds and hundreds of letters long. The theme here is crazy. Gee had to back up and shut up after Ed Ashman destroyed his Egyptological analysis and evidence for Joseph Smith's proper translation of the facsimile number 1. Ed Ashman demonstrated that this is a sex spell. It is not Abraham on a lion couch, it is a woman. And the spell, invoking the name of Abraham, among many others, wanted to overwhelm this woman for the desire to spread her legs for this guy so that he could get laid. He wanted to have sex, and so he wanted to overwhelm her with magic so she would agree. That is the context. Gee so mauled, manipulated, and so irreverently and abjectly, stupidly misinterpreted it in order to boost Joseph Smith's credibility, that this destroyed the idiot's career. The crazy thing is, Carrie Mulstein simply repeated what John Gee had said to other LDS audiences. until an Egyptologist got a hold of him and said, yo, hey, moron, do you even know how to read hieroglyphics, let alone Greek? Are you so stupid that your PhD doesn't help you out here? And he showed Kerry Mulstein how absolutely ridiculous the claim was. And Kerry Mulstein publicly printed a recant. He apologized, admitted he was wrong, and said, oh, yes, it's not really Abraham on this lion couch. It is a woman. And yes, it is a sex spell. Robert Rittner, it was this exact piece of papyri that he had to translate perfectly and describe the context in order for him to get his PhD. When he saw his own ding-a-ling wayward student, John Gee, so stupidly abusing his Egyptological knowledge to come up with such a ridiculous argument in order to make Joseph Smith look better, Rittner disowned John, rightly so. And he told John time and again, that is not acceptable quality. And Gee basically flipped Rittner the bird and kept on producing his bastard apologetics and his ridiculous Mormon bastardization of stupid mistranslations of hieroglyphs in order to help keep Joseph Smith a true prophet. And that is why John Gee is worthless to use. That is why Kerry Mulstein is worthless to use. This is why Michael Dennis Rhodes is worthless to use. This is why you Mormon apologists need to quit using Hugh Nibley's moron methodology of parallels. They aren't real. It has been shown by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, Cara Cooney, Thomas Meckes, and Robert Rittner. If you guys value eyewitnesses to truth, then wake it the hell up and see the eyewitness truth that your Egyptologists are deceiving you, and you are making fools out of yourselves for only reading their materials instead of getting the full, honest historical and Egyptological context like the rest of us have done and come to truth. That would be my honest advice. And now I have one more slide to present, and then I can quit for the night. I appreciate all of you hanging in there with me. This is important, in my opinion, because these guys keep bringing it up, so it's not my fault. Oh, nope, I lied. I've got 2 more. I apologize. Boy, now I'm the one lying. Woohoo!
Mike Winger went through this list of like, here are 8 scholars that totally irrefutably refute the Book of Abraham. I stumbled upon this. All 8 of these was because of a letter sent out by one Francis S. Spalding, an Episcopal bishop way back in 1912, who solicited these responses from 8 experts in order to disprove the Book of Abraham.
Oh, so they're just recycling the old lies for the
well, they're coming up with the lies. And then, so all of those quotes that Mike Winger put, I went and I found the list of the people that he reached out to, and it was just ding, 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 all the ones that Mike Winger was reading off. Sir William Athol Flinders Pierre, he lived from 1853 to 1952. The next guy he cited lived from 1865 to 1935. Arthur C. Mace, 1874 to 1928. John Peters, 1852 to 1921. He was also an Episcopal priest. Actually, that guy. Mercer, I couldn't find on that guy. The next guy, von Bissing, the last guy was 1873 to 1956. So all of these analyses that Mike Winger is reading off was from an Episcopal bishop who solicited negative responses to the Book of Abraham to publish over 100 years ago. And this is the irrefutable scholarship that Mike Winger thinks is the nail in the coffin of the Book of Abraham.
Now, this is a remarkable response of Ward Radio, isn't it? They say, oh, they're just repeating all the old lies. But nothing the Egyptologists of 1912 said were lies. They were simply describing the papyri, the facsimiles, and the incorrect information in them. And the really remarkable thing is, here is where, at the same time, that I disagree with Mike Winger. This is not the final nail in the coffin of Mormon apologetics, but it's sure one of them. Absolutely so. And this is where Ward Radio, instead of orgasming in success, they wallow in the failure without knowing it. Because Mike Winger gave accurate information. And the crazy thing is, while it's not the final nail in the coffin, the consistency of the Egyptological analysis of the Book of Abraham papyri and the facsimiles from 1856 on, from Deberia onward through 1912 up into 1968 with Klaus Baer, John Wilson, and Richard Parker, all of them producing dialogue articles and translations of the fragments, through the analysis of Karakuni, Thomas Mekas, and now Robert Rittner. They are the final nail in the coffin of LDS apologetics, because with the new wave of lunacy trying to defend Joseph Smith's ridiculous so-called translations, the new crop of Egyptologists, which Hugh Nibley was not one. Yes, he studied the language for a year. He was not an Egyptologist. He was a classical scholar, and that was valuable, but it's the wrong type for this problem. So John Gee comes along, Kerry Mulstein comes along, Mike Dennis Rode hops on the bandwagon. Many others tried to support it all, and Kerry Mulstein, etc. And Robert Rittner came, and as a one-man wrecking crew, completely eviscerated all arguments for authenticity for Joseph Smith from all of the LDS Egyptologists combined. There is no stone unturned that Robert Rittner left, and he has demonstrated, as well-intentioned, if we can even assume that much, that Joseph Smith was, he was wrong, which means that he lied. Now, I'm going to stop my analysis of this video at this point, but I'm only halfway through their video, okay? Because the second half is nothing but ranting and raving, and they are so mortally offended at Mike Winger mocking their testimonies and all that, that I didn't think it was relevant. It would get us off of focus, off of the papyri and the Book of Abraham. So I'm not trying to miscontext them. I'm staying tightly focused. I don't give a rat's ass about the rest of their whining about how evil and hypocritical Mike Winger is, because their own bureaucratic organized religion does the same stupid shit as Mike Winger's. All organized religions do. So it's kind of humorous to see one of them picking on the other one when they're both blind and the one leading the other one falls into the ditch. And it's a bitch for them. For the rest of us, it's almost pure entertainment, right? But I do have finally one last slide in which I am 100% in agreement with Carden Ellis of Ward Radio. Finally, I get to the end of this, and I am 100% agreeing. He is exactly correct, and I would like to share this with you as my blessing of ending this long demonstration of the abject stupidity and outdatedness of poor, worthless Mormon apologetics on the papyri and the Book of Abraham. Carden Ellis, my brother, congratulations. You actually did get me to agree with you 100% on this. Let's see what it is.
And now you're acting like it's a mic drop. And I should have been a pastor. I should have been a pastor. It's just so much easier.
You're exactly right. You should go be a pastor because your apologetics suck. And that's my agreement with him. Give up apologetics, dude. You suck at it. I could beat you with half my brain tied behind my back on every subject with the papyri and the Book of Abraham any day. Any day. You're welcome to come on my show and share your defense that you just showed here, and let me show you how I would manhandle you. Pick a subject with the Book of Abraham and bring it on. Carden Ellis of Ward Radio. So that's my show tonight, you guys. Thank you for all your support. I appreciate the financial support. That really does help. I hate begging for money, so I'm not going to do it. But if you can, throw a few dollars my way. That would be glorious. That would be nice. No, I'm not doing this for the money. I'm not going to make 100 billion like Mormonism, although I wish I could. I would if I could. But yeah, any support is fine and acceptable. If you can't, don't sweat it. I love that you're here watching and enjoying the family here. And oh, hi, Debbie Donovan. Good to see you, dear. And so, yeah, I went ham. I apologize. No, I didn't go ham. I went serious. That was my serious challenge. So anyway, it's really fun to explore this. And it's really fun to see that it's not a subject that's going to die anytime soon, but it really has to. It's very interesting that other really serious, full of clout Mormon scholars say that they want to completely get rid of the facsimiles. Paul Osborne said in the show here, in the chat, and I have made a video of his research on this, the actual first chapter of the Book of Abraham, Carden Ellis of Ward Radio. You're not aware of this, but the entire first chapter of the Book of Abraham historically is pure bunk. And we've got the evidence to show that. Joseph Smith did not get it right. So it's very, oh, thank you, Debbie Donovan. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is fun. I appreciate you being here and having fun with us. So I appreciate that very much. So, hey, Mr. Rabbit. Hey, Rooney Phoenix. I hope I pronounced your name right. Oh, fun. So I made you laugh. Oh, it's okay. It's recorded. So you can go back and watch the recording. Yeah, I'm on every Sunday night, 6 p.m., and this is basically me. What you see is what you have, what you get. So, yeah, please do. Feel free to come back all you want. I do try to make recorded videos also, but Sunday night, 6 p.m. is my time for me to entertain all of you fabulous people. I appreciate it and love it. So, So anyway, this has been a lot of fun. It's been educational and important for me too, because this shows us something else that the apologists don't want you to recognize and know. And this is so hard to do. I mean, let's be charitable to them. I was in their shoes one time, and they really don't see their own blind spot. You notice every accusation that Ward Radio made against Mike Winger, their own church is guilty of, without exception, every one of them. Everything they accused Mike Winger of, they themselves are guilty of. Isn't that interesting? And yet they don't see it. So it's not going to do us a lot of good to say, oh yeah, you're just being a bunch of hypocrites, even when they are, because I'm not so sure they're doing it intentionally. I'm trying to be charitable here. So if I can give them that much, that still doesn't give them a leg to stand on, but I can at least be charitable and say, I really don't think it's intentional. It's just unfortunately that it's still true. Crazy how that works. So anyway, all right, you guys. Hey, I appreciate y'all coming. Come back again every Sunday night, 6 p.m. I will be here with more. Look, I'm telling you, in Sunstone, I met Lindsay Hansen Park. I'm going to have her on the show. Absolutely. I met the phenomenal author of a phenomenal book, Benjamin Park, American Zion, the new 1-volume history of Mormonism. His description of that helped me buy the book. I'm going to read it. I'm going to review it, and I'm going to have him on the show. I talked with him. I've been talking to Gene Judson. I'm going to have him and Summer Rain. Bless your heart, Summer Rain. Dang it, you cost me a lot more money than I was expecting, and I'm so happy you did. Summer Rain grabbed me, gave me a hug. Good to see you, Carrie. Grabbed me by the cuff of the shirt, and she said, "Come here, you!" And she drugged me right over to the table of books, grabbed a particular book and said, "Here, you're buying that one." And I did. And I'm starting to read it. And I'm very excited. Summer Rain and I are going to do an analysis and a book review of this book called Second Class Citizen about blacks in Mormonism. Now, when she was standing there describing that to me, she said, without question, the best book written on this subject. Okay, yeah. You don't have to try to sell me, hon. I'm buying the book. The other three guys that were at the Bench bookstore, it was Chris Bench and his group, great people, Benchmark Books. They all kind of came over and said, she's not buffaloing you. That is without question the finest treatment. That book will piss you off. That book will infuriate you on the ridiculous, immoral, cruel way organized institute religion, even if it claims to be Jesus Christ's, treats people they consider inferior. So you know me in social justice. I get really wound up and pissed off about injustice. I'm going to try hard to stay calm. I'm going to give you some exciting nights where on Sunday Night Lives, I come unglued, sort of like I did this. I'll entertain you, but I will also share with you the truth as I understand it, and I will do something that the apologists don't do or can't. I will present you with evidence of all sides so that we can land at a more accurate probability of whether a claim is true or not. That's what it's all about. Bayes' theorem rules because it's the way to rationally come to more informed, better decisions, which can change your life for the better. And that's what I'm all about. Yeah, baby. Mark Crispin, that's for you. Yeah, baby. That's for the rest of you also. So anyway, I appreciate all of you, man. Oh, and I apologize to all my chess fans for missing Saturday. I was down in Salt Lake at Sunstone. I will make it up for you. I know I keep saying every week I'm going to try to do more chess videos. And I will. But next Saturday we'll do some extra lengthy stuff too. So, oh, Debbie Donovan, you've read the book. Thank you. Good. See, nobody has said anything bad about that book. Yeah, Debbie says that book is insanely toe curling. Do it. We will. We are. I will contact Summer Rain and tell. I promised her I was going to announce it that we're going to do this, and so I've got to get reading that book. So hey, I appreciate that, Debbie. Yeah. Oh, and you've got it in Kindle. Yeah. See, that's how other people who began talking to me about the book told me they had done it, and I get it. It's cheaper, but I'm the kind of guy that I have to make indexes of my own books, right? I have to write in them and I cross-reference them and all that. So I wanted the hard copy. See, like this fantastic book of Dan Vogel's. What I did with it is I made my own index of information because indexes usually don't work. And then, of course, I color code stuff and I put cross-references and, I put notes and I write notes in it and all that. Because that way I can connect all of the various thoughts and contexts, and that's what makes the books even more valuable for me. I have this book cross-referenced to the Joseph Smith papers, the Joseph Smith papers book of the Book of Abraham. I've got it cross-referenced to other books by Mormon apologists, as well as other the LDS Gospel Topics series. I've got it correlated to the Gospel Topics essays. I've got references to Joseph Smith's Rough Stone Rolling based on what he said about the papyri, etc. So I like to cross-reference stuff and put it all together so that I can have a more complete, a more realistic, I'll say it that way, a more realistic context and outlook. So that's just my method. There's nothing wrong with Kindle. I promise. I'm not dissing Kindle books. I have Kindle books myself and I have read them and I enjoy them. But on books like this that are so important that I want to review, I do need them in the print. So yeah, thanks, Debbie. You're awesome, girl. Yeah, old school. That's me. Good point. Yeah, I plead guilty. Oh, very good. Yeah. You have a notebook and you write in it. Yeah, because my brain loves to reference. Hun, we are two peas in a pod. I'm so with you on that. Yes. Yeah, Mr. Rabbit, I do yeah, none of these are fake. Or else they all are. Ooh, that could be interesting. Oh, you guys, it's fun. Okay, a lot of really solid. Gene Judson's going to be here. We're going to have some talks. Mormonish, we're going to do some more podcasts together. I talked to Mormonish. We're having fun with them at Sunstone. They're good people. So we have a lot going down the pipeline, coming to where we are going to have some sensationally informative Sunday night live programs. I insist to myself, I go out of my way to try to present accurate and valid and good information. I do try to be fair. Sincerely, I do. And I mean, I can't 100% be completely accurate and fair, but I give it my best shot. And so I think that's critical for people to be able to come to a more informed decision, because quite frankly, none of this is easy to do, right? We're living through it. Well, that sucks if you lose faith in it because of all the stupid lies and deception. And now you have to deal with family and friends. That's difficult. See, the church has made it that way. That's difficult. I empathize with that. Seriously do. I've still got issues myself. I'll probably have them my whole life. So it's important to be clear-headed. As clear as we can. The best way to become clear-headed is, of course, read as many sides, whether you like them or not, whether you agree with them. It's not about agreeing with them that you're doing this. It's not about finding someone that thinks like me, oh, and therefore it validates my belief. That has nothing to do with the way I do stuff like this. I'm looking for truth. Obviously, that's going to be based on an evidenced probability or on a non-evidenced probability, right? And so we need to realistically assess where that probability lands. And it does change. That's why we remain flexible. That's why we remain active here. That's why we continue furthering our knowledge and our education. I mean, Dan Vogel's in his late 60s, and he's still producing phenomenal books like this one, Charisma Under Pressure. He's continuing 970 some pages. He's continuing his education and educating us. So if he can, we can. Don't let the old geezer outdo you. Oh, sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to call you an old geezer. Does this mean you're not going to come back on my show? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll praise your book some more. It's such a good book. Anyway. All right, you guys. Man, I love y'all. This is fun for me. It's validating. It's fulfilling. I love how you guys can get along in the chat. I love how we can cross-reference, help each other discuss stuff. I love the topics we get into. I appreciate all your help, your love, your support, the phone calls, everything, the emails. Contact me if you need to. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Oh, hey, like and subscribe. Woohoo! If you don't, I'm going to ask you. Yeah, you better subscribe. Anyway, yeah. Appreciate all your support. Like and subscribe. Leave a message. Leave a comment in the comment section. Just, if nothing else, say hi, because that genuinely, it does help the algorithm. I mean, I'm not trying to beg you here, but I need all the help I can get because I am a small channel. I'm small but powerful. I can hold my own against any of them, intellectually and historically and evidentially, as I think I can demonstrate. And that's why you guys keep coming back, because you know I'm the real deal. Just like so many other sites that also deal with these issues. We're not kidding. We want the truth. Well, we're showing it to you. That's what makes it so much fun. And we're grateful that we live in the age that we do. I mean, the age of printing, so that we can have all this magnificent stuff. I mean, if you guys are ever going to study Hebrew, this is one of the best. Introduction to Biblical Hebrew, Thomas O. Lambden. I've got this and I'm working my way through it. Fantastic stuff. I'm telling you. I'm just here to tell you. If you guys want to make dumb dad jokes, oh, no, I'm not going to give you that secret source. All right. Hey, I really do have to go now. I've been blubbering now for 45 minutes. And look, you're all still here. I love you guys. You're the best. You guys rock on. Okay. And thanks again. I will see you during the week. Hopefully, I'll get some videos made. And I will see you next Sunday, 6 o'clock. I'll find something good to talk about. Appreciate y'all. Yeah, I got to turn out the lights, right? Yeah, it's time. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, Debbie, I'm not only the true backyard professor, I am the knight of Lighthouse Ministry. I've been knighted by Sandra Tanner, the queen herself. And I ran into her at Sunstone yesterday. And yes, we got some pictures. Hey, I've got some pictures to show you. Oh, and hey, I got Joseph Smith, the glass looker. Hey, look at this. Hold it. I've got my books. Did any of you stick around? Yeah, you guys did. Okay, here we go. Show and tell. Sorry. It's your fault. It's your fault, not mine. There's the book I'm going to review. Benjamin Park, a terrific author, American Zion. Geoplanet Jane, thank you for showing up. Woohoo! You got here just in time. I'm going to show off my treasures I bought at the bookstore at Sunstone. Oh, and then this one. I'm going to do a book review of this one. This little gal, Donna Banta, writes humorous novels about serious Mormon subjects, not in mockery, but just as a novel to help you think in new ways. And I told them, I said, that's a great idea. And they said, well, you're the backyard professor, aren't you? I said, yeah, I have my name tag, right? And they said, we'll let you take one of these for free if you'll review it on your show. I said, deal. So this is the one I'm going to do. So that'll be more fun coming down the pipe. Woohoo! Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. I had no idea this existed. The second I saw this, I grabbed it. This was the first book I bought out of the bookstore at Sunstone. Man, have I got a hell of a reference on a fabulous subject. Understanding Adam God's teachings, a comprehensive, and they're not kidding, resource of Adam God materials. Every church leader who has ever said anything pro or con about Adam God is in this book. And the damn thing weighs 80 pounds and it's 700 pages. There are dozens and, well, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different quotes from everyone. Brigham Young, George E. Reynolds, F.B. Toronto, Edward Stevenson, Erastus Snow, Brigham Young again, Lorenzo Snow, Heber C. Kimball, Amasa M. Lyman, Ezra T. Benson, Brigham Young again, of course, he's the big one, Daniel H. Wells, W.W. Phelps, Joseph Smith, Orson Pratt. It's all here. Everything. Now, this was put together in 2005. This is the new, revised, updated with the complete comprehensiveness of 2022, up to 2022. Fantastic stuff. Looking forward to using that book. And I had to get this one. Yeah, now you're all leaving. Now that I'm doing a book review. Woohoo! See, whoever stays is the celestial kingdom material, right? You guys will receive your second anointing with me for staying. Okay, Mormonism at the Crossroads of Philosophy and Theology, essays in honor of David L. Paulson. David Paulson is the important philosopher out of BYU who demonstrated with the actual evidence to the rest of the Christian world, to their dismay, that the early Christian fathers absolutely taught God had a physical body. And that's what made his career. So this is kind of cool that they put this together in honor of him. And there are some great topics here that I'm looking forward to doing some shows about. More good stuff. Hey, here we go. Here we go. Mark Elwood, the glass looker. I met Mark. I've got pictures with him. Nice guy. Terrific guy. Fantastic art and great stories. Graphic novels. So I will be looking into those also. It was very good to meet him. And then I finally got this book, Reflections of a Mormon Historian by Leonard Arrington. I had this book about 20 years ago, read it, got so furious and livid at the ridiculously stupid, immature, wicked way that the church leaders treated their main historian. And then for whatever reason, I traded the book off for a different book. And I never could find it again unless it was like for $200 or $300 online. I got this little baby for $25. So I'm keeping this one now. So now I've got Prince's biography of Leonard Arrington. And now I've got Leonard Arrington's own book. And I will do some shows on Mormon history using that book again, without question. Oh, and then finally, Oh, and I've got my other book upstairs. I'm reading it, so I can't show it to you. But this one, The House of Israel, this is a little pamphlet. The House of Israel, the Mormon and Jewish people. And I got looking through the pamphlet. I go, hey, yeah, this is really cool. Oh, hey, look, they show the blessings in Hebrew, and I'm learning Hebrew. And I've been reading through these different blessings in Hebrew of the Old Testament. When Moses gives his blessing to the 10 tribes, 12 tribes, and Jacob gives his blessings to his sons, and I'm studying the Hebrew of that. And so I was ranting and raving about how cool that was. And I started talking to him about the Messiah, Ben Joseph, and all that. And they said, yo, dude, we'll give you that for free. Thank you for your enthusiasm. So I want to give a shout out to these guys. The right, there's the email, right.branch@gmail.com or 1-801-769-6279. I want to give a shout out to my friends who gave me that. So anyway, man, I can't believe I've got the book. It's upstairs. I'm starting to read it, and so I've got it upstairs by the bed. So the one on the second class sits in. So yeah, I think they do, Geoplanet Jane. They do sell online. Yes, Sunstone Books does. Yep. Well, kind of. God the Son, Jesus Christ Saves Two. Wow, what a handle. Whoa, dude, you're like religious or something. Yeah, this is a Mormon channel, but it's a former Mormon apologist who felt deceived and lied to, and now I am discussing that angle of Mormonism. And through my own researches, I've discovered that the Mormon history is not what I was taught, and therefore I feel it incumbent to tell the truth because the church is having a truth crisis, and therefore I am helping others who are going through the emotional, spiritual turmoil of being deceived and not being able to solve it because their families still believe, things like that. So yeah, in a way it is. So thank you for asking. Hey, Mo, see ya. How are you? Good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Appreciate it. I appreciate all of you, man. I love you guys. You're like family. Tim Rathbone, how you doing? You're a good man. I don't know what you're good for, but you're a good man. Oh, I've got to keep you humble. Okay, I have gone on and on and on. Seriously, I've got to quit, I think. So, all right. Yeah, I've got to pull the plug. Paul Osborne, you're right. Pull the plug. Get out. Get out now while you can. Okay, man. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for everything. I will see you next Sunday, 6 p.m. Be there and have some more fun with us all. See you guys later. Mwah.